Hi everybody, I'm Rebecca Virginia and I'm excited to kick off the Valentine's Day crafts by showing you 14 of my absolute favorite Dollar Tree Valentine's Day DIYs. Let's kick off these pink and red crafts with a Love You to Pieces puzzle sign. The first part of this DIY is the most time-consuming one, and it is taking apart a puzzle. This is one that I got from the Dollar Tree. It's an Ariel Disney one, as you can tell, and actually after I opened it, I did complete the puzzle over the weekend before then kind of destroying it, and I created 4 different shades of red, pink, white, and almost like a magenta one. Originally, I was going to use that sheet of cardboard that I just showed you to create a heart that looks like this, but then I was at the Dollar Tree and this heart was exactly what I needed, and I knew it would be more sturdy than the cardboard and just a lot easier. If you've ever tried to cut cardboard, you know that stuff is really hard to cut. So I peeled off this love sign. I thought that it would come off a lot nicer than it did and I can use it for a future project, but it didn't really. I saved it just in case, but it kind of had some residue left. And again, this project is so simple. It is just time consuming. Painting all of the puzzle pieces. It did take me about 2 episodes of a Netflix show, but once that was done, assembling it was pretty easy. I picked up this puzzle saver from the Crafter's Square section, and you can see me reading the label because I couldn't find the ingredients and I didn't really know what this was. I liked that when I opened it, it had this like stopper. I don't even know what you would call this, spatula, and you were able to smear it on. I was trying to figure out how this was different than Mod Podge, and the only real difference that I saw is that it was very, very glossy, whereas Mod Podge, well, you can buy a glossy one, but also a matte one. And the one thing that I really liked about it was that it was clear. Mod Podge kind of has like a milky white look to it, and it does dry clear, but every once in a while you'll have a bubble or something where the Mod Podge doesn't dry clear. So I think that if you see this puzzle saver at your Dollar Tree, you should pick it up. It's also a much larger bottle, and you're gonna get more than what you would in that smaller Mod Podge jar that the Dollar Tree sells. And right now I am just creating a base layer. I don't know why, but I was very scared that I was going to run out of puzzle pieces about halfway through, so I put them very sparingly down. And spoiler alert, I ended up with a lot of extra puzzle pieces to use in other DIYs. So the 500 puzzle piece is definitely more than enough to cover this sign. And this part, again, it's really easy. It just kind of takes a long time. Put on some YouTube, put on a favorite show, and just go in and put down all your puzzle pieces. I did leave it for an hour. That's what the bottle said to say. And then I just kept layering it up. So adding on more of that puzzle saver glue and adding more puzzle pieces. I ended up doing about 3 layers, and that looked like this. So once that was all dry, I am going to be adding my arrow sign that says Love You to Pieces. I picked up this wood arrow from the Dollar Tree, and I'm cutting off the rope that it came with, but I will be using that later. And first things first, we are going to paint this arrow white. I'm using my go-to, my Waverly white chalk paint. And then once the arrow was completely painted, of course, I couldn't just leave it white. If you know me, I like to distress everything. So I went in with a chip brush from Apple Barrel, as well as my go-to dark brown shade from Apple Barrel. It's called, I believe, Cypress Umber or Burnt Umber. Something with an umber, and it is my go-to dark brown color. It's the darkest brown they make, so if you're in Walmart or a craft store, you'll know which one to pick up. And I'm just kind of dirtying up those edges so it adds a bit of definition. And then I went ahead and used some vinyl to say Love You to Pieces, but you could also freehand this or use some letter stickers. And there was a little bit of white space at the end of the arrow, so I grabbed one of these wood hearts, of course, shocking, from the Dollar Tree, and added that to the end of the arrow before grabbing my hot glue and hot gluing the arrow down at an angle on top of our puzzle piece heart. The final step was adding the piece of rope that came with the arrow from earlier and just hot gluing that down to the back of my puzzle piece heart. My next DIY is a Love Lives Here wood house. I saw a similar version of this that the Dollar Tree was selling, but never had it in stock at my store, so I had to make my own. As you can tell, this wood house is from Christmas. I picked it up when they have all of their Christmas stuff on sale for 50 cents at the Dollar Tree, and I am completely deconstructing it. Now, they do have a house currently out for Valentine's Day that I believe says love on it, and then they also have one if your store already has Easter stuff in stock. They do have one for Easter, so we're just going to be using the back of this. So whichever one that you find is going to work. I took off the roof part of the house and then I just flipped it over, and I am painting it white, not paying too much attention to, again, where the roof is, because we're going to be covering that, and just getting a good opaque base coat. Then I picked up these heart toothpicks, mostly because I thought they'd be cute little coffee stirrers for in my kitchen to have during Valentine's Day. But at first I thought that I could use this as the hearts coming out of the chimney, but they were a little bit too small. But I did utilize the toothpick portion of it, and I dipped them in a dark gray color, so you can see that they are not their natural wood color anymore. And then I have these larger wood hearts from the Dollar Tree that came in a pack, and I am using 2 red and a pink one, and trying to measure out exactly what length I want them to be coming out of the chimney. And it didn't work. The roof wouldn't lay flat if I put them on that side, so I had to flip the sign over, hot glue them to the back, and then I had a nice flat surface to re-hot glue down the roof section of my house. This part you could totally freehand, but I already had my vinyl out from the previous project, so I went ahead and cut out 2 windows. Again, you can draw them or you can use stickers too. Then for the door, I just took a piece of cardboard and cut it into a square, and I'm using this shade. I've loved using it for Valentine's Day. It's called Berry Red by Apple Barrel, and I think it's a really pretty but not too intense red color. Then I went ahead and also put down Love Lives Here, another thing that you could freehand or use sticker letters for. And the heart that I took from the toothpick didn't go to waste. I used that as a little doorknob on the door. And to make this a stand-up sign, I hot glued 2 tumbling tower blocks or Jenga blocks to the back of the house so that it would stand up. I had my first attempt at Shabby Chic DIYs last week, and I was feeling a little inspired and kind of let it flow over into this DIY for this week. Similar to the last DIY, I am taking a house not from this season. This was out, of course, during the summertime, and I knew that I would use it for something. At first, I thought that I could peel off the mermaid saying, but unfortunately I couldn't. It was coming out in pieces, so I just painted over the entire thing using my white Waverly chalk paint. Now I am creating a buffalo check very similar to what I did last week. I absolutely loved the way that it came out, except this time I'm going to use very muted pale tones of pink. So I am laying down the tape first in this vertical way, and I'm using a little piece of tape as a spacer. It's just a really nice way. You don't have to break out that measuring tape and make sure that everything's perfect. It acts as a really nice spacer. I will also link above the video from next week. I explained this process in a little bit more detail. I have really been loving creating my own buffalo check. I tried it for the first time this summer and really liked the process. It was so fun at the end to peel off all the tape and see your buffalo check creation. So the pale pink color that I'm using in this DIY, I've used in a couple this week and last week. It's called Seashell Pink by Folk Art, and I really love it. I think it came out so perfect in all of the Valentine's Day DIYs. Then I peeled off my tape. I don't let it dry on the first go around, so I just peeled it off, and now we're going to be working horizontal. You're doing the exact same thing, except this time horizontal, and you are going to be using the exact same color, so you're not switching up color shades. I'm going to be going in again with that seashell pink color, just painting this time horizontally. Also this time, do not remove the painter's tape. We are going to leave that on and let this dry. After that layer of paint has fully dried, we are going to go back in with another layer of painter's tape. And this time we are going to be going over the base squares. So whatever color you started off with, usually that's going to be white, and it is in this case. You can't really see it in the video with the lighting, but it is a lot more visible in person. So I'm just going over again vertically over those white squares. And this time I took the shade Watermelon and mixed it with a little bit of black paint to kind of have this muted mauve color. And I'm going over that and letting it completely dry. And then when I revealed it, the pink and white buffalo check was complete. I absolutely love the way that this came out. Next, we're moving on to the true centerpiece of this DIY, and it is using the wood hearts from the Dollar Tree. They come out with these wood hearts every single year. They are always something that you can rely on them coming back in stock with. And I just took a wet paper towel and some brown stain and stained the heart. I still wanted it to have that wood look to it, but just a little bit darker than the natural state. Now I am experimenting with two different types of lacy ribbons. I wanted it to wrap around one side of the heart and then just kind of be left free flowing and the other side. So I'm just playing around with how I wanted these pieces of lace to go across, and once I figured that out, I went ahead and added a little bit of hot glue. You have to be careful with the lace because the hot glue comes through the little holes in it. And then because I wanted it to look like it was wrapping around, I flipped it over and hot glued it to the back. For the little rosebud that I added to this, the Dollar Tree came out with their foam roses. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw them in stores, I wasn't sure if they were supposed to be a little kid craft or if I could actually make them look nice in a DIY. But by adding the little pieces of boxwood to the petals, I think it came out really good, and I hope that it doesn't look like a little kid's DIY. I actually really liked how the foam roses came out. I saw that this year the Dollar Tree came out with a Valentine's Day book stack, but unfortunately I couldn't find it in any of my stores, so once again I had to make my own. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys knew about the Dollar Tree wood crate hack. All that you have to do is take one of the wood crates from the Dollar Tree, paint it, and then flip it upside down, and suddenly it looks like a book stack. I went ahead and added some Valentine's Day buzzwords and a little felt heart from the Dollar Tree. And this ribbon I actually picked up in the fall and never touched it, but I was really glad that I had it. I trimmed it down and kind of frayed the edges to make it look a bit worn and wrapped that around the side of my book stack. I love making these book stacks for lots of different holidays. I usually decorate my mantle for each big holiday. So for this one, I am actually just going to be using a bit of duct tape to hold my ribbon in place. It's a good hack because if you use temporary vinyl and duct tape, you can change it out for all of the seasons. And I complemented it with some heart bead garland that I also picked up from the Dollar Tree. Valentine's Day DIY is this adorable Hello Valentine tag sign that will look great in your home or displayed on your front door. So this DIY actually doesn't need that many supplies, but two of our main ones are going to be these tag signs from the Dollar Tree. One is a Christmas tag and one is from all the way back in the summer. So what I did is I just flipped them. We're not going to be using the front of them, so I just flipped them over and we're going to be painting the back. So for the first one, we're going to be creating a Valentine's Day buffalo check pattern. So to do this, I first painted the entire sign white. Then once it was dry, I went in with some painter's tape and I am creating some vertical stripes going down the tag sign. And I'm using another piece of the painter's tape as a spacer in between. Then I went in with the color Ballet Slipper. It's this really pretty pale muted pink color from Waverly Chalk Paint. And I am filling in, of course, in between the painter's tape. And I didn't wait for this to dry before I peeled it. I'm just going to immediately, once I'm done, peel off the painter's tape. Then I let that dry for a bit, and we're going to be going in repeating the same process, but this time going horizontally. So again, I am placing down the painter's tape using a second piece of painter's tape as a spacer, and then laying down another piece. I actually have a very in-depth tutorial on how to do this buffalo check using paint and painter's tape. I will link that above in case you guys wanted to check that out. I went into a bit more detail on how exactly to do this, but if you're able to follow this quick version, then even better. After using that same pale pink color to paint over the horizontal stripes, I waited again until it was dry. And it's a little difficult to see on video, but there is a section that is not covered by tape, and we are going to be covering that section by tape. It's going to be protecting a lot of the white squares that are going to end up showing up in our buffalo check. So I am once again going vertically down, and this time I am taking a darker red color. This is called Berry Red by Folk Art. So I actually ended up doing 2 coats of this, and once that was dry, it was time to reveal our buffalo check design. I always love this part. It's so much fun seeing the buffalo check really come to life once you peel off all that tape and you can see all your hard work really come to fruition. This is an easy technique, but it just takes a lot of time because you have to wait in between each layer of paint to dry. So it's really fun to see the end result. Now I am taking the second tag sign, and originally I was going to use one of the new 2022 calendars from the Dollar Tree, and I still think that you could do that. I really loved this truck. I thought it was so cute, and it didn't quite fit horizontally, but I was thinking maybe vertically you could have done it. So I think this is a really great option, but I decided to end up just using some vinyl scraps that I had. So I found a cute truck pattern of my own on my Cricut design space, and I ended up just using some vinyl. But if you don't use that, you can have some stickers, you can use a window cling, or you can use one of the calendars from the Dollar Tree. So after painting the tag white, I distressed it a bit using some darker brown paint. Then while that was drying, I moved on to my bow. And this bow is a little bit complicated to make, so I'm actually going to link a tutorial where I went very in-depth, step by step. I'm sure a lot of you know how to create bows like this, but actually this Christmas was the first time I made a bow like this. I have a very simple way of making my bows, so I kind of stepped outside of my comfort zone and figured out how to make some new ones. So again, that will be linked above my Christmas DIY video where I show you super in-depth how to create this bow. But here I am just adding the tail onto it and tying that on with some jute in the back. So now we're going to set that bow to the side and go back to the sign. I'm laying down some hot glue and then placing the front tag on top of the buffalo check tag. And I know what you're thinking, you worked so hard just to hide up that buffalo check. I kind of felt the same way, but I really liked the effect that it gave having these 2 layered tags. Then I went ahead and the vinyl that I had cut out earlier, I placed down onto the front of the sign before hot gluing down the bow. Then I cut the tails of my bow into a dovetail and just kind of scrunched up the ribbon. And the camera actually didn't catch this last step, but I did take some nautical rope that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, and that is what I used to make the door hanger for this sign. The next DIY is my first attempt at ever making something that I think would be considered shabby chic. I figured if there's ever a time to do it, then it's going to be Valentine's Day. So to start this DIY, you are going to need a heart sign. I picked up these follow your heart signs when they were 2 for $1 after the Valentine's Day season was over. And if your Dollar Tree has these, you could just flip them over and use the blank back. But Dollar Tree, or at least mine, came out with these blank wood signs for Valentine's Day. So to make it a little bit easier on myself, I'm just going to be using this. And first off, the slats that are holding the heart pieces together, I took some dark brown paint and I am just painting all in those sections. Like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to try my hand at creating some shabby chic DIYs. And when I researched kind of what exactly is shabby chic, the two colors that kept coming up over and over again were this pale pink color and this almost pastel like celery green color. So I decided to incorporate both of those colors into this DIY. I am taking that celery green color on one of the slats, and then the rest I am painting that pale pink. And then I'm going into decoupaging. So I picked up some of this gorgeous tissue paper at the Dollar Tree. And for this middle section, I am just going to be putting down the entire row. So I'm not fussy cutting out any of the flowers. I am just simply adhering down the tissue paper. And you might be wondering, why didn't I just cut out a strip and put the whole strip down? Well, I tried that. I knew against my better decoupaging judgment that that was probably not going to work out, and it didn't. There were lots of bumps and lumps and air bubbles. So you really have to work in small sections when you're decoupaging, taking your Mod Podge, putting a little bit of the tissue paper down, and then covering that in some more Mod Podge. And that's why I'm using a paintbrush when I do this, because I don't want to end up using too much of the Mod Podge. I want it to be nicely spaced out. And I did fussy cut smaller sections of the florals for these pieces that I am now decoupaging down onto our wood heart. Then I moved on to the third slat in the heart DIY, and since it was blank, I looked around my craft room for a stencil of a heart or something that would fit with Valentine's Day, and I didn't really have one, so instead I took this paper doily and a sponge brush and some white paint, and I just dabbed this onto the slat, and I think it came out really good. It was kind of a makeshift stencil. Then I moved on to the bow. And in this case, I took some of this smaller lace ribbon and I hot glued it on top of some burlap ribbon to kind of create my own custom Valentine's Day ribbon. And for this one, I'm just creating a super simple loop bow. So I'm just looping the ribbon together and pinching it in the center. And usually I would take a piece of jute and tie this in the center. But for this one, I'm doing it a little bit differently. So instead, I just used a bit of hot glue to hold that pinch together. As the centerpiece of my bow, I picked up these really cute heart pins from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to be using that, as well as one of these love galvanized signs, which of course I also got from the Dollar Tree. And the center heart and the love sign, I am taking a color called Celery by Waverly, and I am painting both the sign and the heart. And then once that was dried, it was really easy to peel the wood heart off of the clothespin that it was attached to and just hot glue that onto the center of our bow. And then I also took the love sign, and that is going to be on the third slat too. But I wanted it to be a little bit more shabby chic, bring in some rustic elements. So I wanted it to look like the bow was holding up the love sign. So I kind of faked it by just using some hot glue and jute, and hot gluing the jute to the back of the love sign, and then hot gluing our bow onto the center of the wood heart and having some of that jute behind it. So again, it kind of looked like the bow was holding up the love sign. This wood sign already came with a jute hanger, so I just threaded that back through the holes, and our shabby chic sign was completed. My next Valentine's Day DIY might just be my favorite, and I think because I kind of created it as an homage to vintage love letters. I really love this DIY because I created everything with supplies that I already had. So I took this galvanized heart sign that I picked up over the summer when the Dollar Tree came out with a lot of their galvanized signs, but I saw that they do have the hearts back out again. And I took some paint to just distress this. Again, I'm kind of going with the vintage love letters inspiration for this DIY. Then I took some scrapbooking paper and a doily to just create that delicate vintage touch. And for the edges of the scrapbooking paper, I am just slowly and gently ripping it again so it has that worn love letter kind of vibe. Then I hot glued down the side of the paper doily into place and then added a bit of glue stick glue to adhere the scrapbooking paper down on top. I added a little bit of brown paint just to give it that weathered look, and then I moved on to some more embellishments. I picked up these little wood hearts from the Dollar Tree, so I will be hot gluing that down soon. And then I wanted to make a little banner that said love, so I got some more scrapbooking paper that I had and cut out 4 little triangles, and then just took a black marker to write out love. Then I grabbed a small piece of jute to just hang across the galvanized heart, and I hot glued the love banner into place. Then I went deep into my craft supplies and I found this small Sola wood flower, as well as these 2 really adorable white heart buttons. So I knew that I wanted to use those, and I also had a long piece of this lacy heart-shaped ribbon. So I cut out a little bit of that, and I was trying to figure out where exactly I wanted to place it, and I liked it down along the side. So I grabbed some hot glue and laid that in place, and then I hot glued down the Sola wood flower. I will have their link down below if you wanted to check out any of their items. Then I hot glued down those hard buttons before adding a bit of hot glue and jute as a hanger. I actually really liked how this turned out just using it as a standing up sign, but you could always hang it too. Next up is a super easy DIY using supplies from the Dollar Tree that I think would make a great Valentine's Day gift for someone. Let's get right into this DIY. If you happen to see these pot holders from the Dollar Tree, you have got to pick a bunch up. I have actually only ever seen them in store twice. So if your store is one of the lucky ones that has this pot holder with the pocket, make sure to pick them up because they are such a good deal for only $1. They have a rubberized backing. And again, they're one of the only pot holders I've seen from the Dollar Tree with a pocket, which makes it so perfect for gifting because you can add in a little something special and extra in that pocket section. I am using my Cricut vinyl and my small heat press to put on this cute little saying, baked with love. And if you aren't able to find these pot holders, you don't have a Cricut, or maybe you just don't want to DIY, I have opened an Etsy shop. That is a new thing that I have done in 2022. I'm very excited about that. And I am going to have these up for sale in my Etsy shop by the time this video is up. So I will have that link below if you wanted to check it out. I am currently offering free shipping on all of the items in my Etsy store. So if you wanted to check it out, I would really appreciate it. And for that little something special and extra, I found this adorable rubber spatula and heart cookie cutter from the Dollar Tree, which I tucked inside. The next DIY, if you can't tell, I was feeling the baking themed, so I made this adorable made with love sign complete with its own decorative whisk. The Dollar Tree has brought out these happily ever after and other saying signs season after season, so although I picked this one up in the fall, I have already seen them out again, so you could definitely still find these in your Dollar Tree. And what I really love about them and what makes them different are the wood bead holder. I think that's a really nice touch from the Dollar Tree. So like I do with a lot of my Dollar Tree signs, I just flipped it over and I am painting that bare side using a pale pink color similar to the one that I used in the first DIY. Then this tissue paper might look familiar because I also used this in the first DIY. It was so pretty, I just had to use it again. And I am decoupaging just a little bit around the sides and the top and bottom of my frame. Again, using the same technique, laying down a bit of Mod Podge, then placing the Mod Podge over top the tissue paper as well. And I did just fussy cut out some flowers, which basically just means that you're not being completely precise when you're cutting out and just kind of of doing a rough outline or silhouette of what you are trying to cut out, and then just continued laying down the Mod Podge and the tissue paper until everything was dry. I found this cute little mini whisk in the kitchen section at the Dollar Tree, and I liked the red color and was thinking of something like Made with Love or Baked with Love and how it would be cute and on theme for Valentine's Day, but I wanted it to have a bit more of that distressed, shabby chic look, so I went in with some white chalk paint and a little bit of brown paint to distress it, and then I popped back in the backing of our frame, and I couldn't really decide which pattern I liked best. I know the darker pink showed up better on camera, and even in pictures it kind of looked better, but this pale one looks really, really pretty and delicate in person, so you'll just have to trust me on why I went with the paler shade. And then I moved on to painting the beads at the top of our frame. This was a little bit difficult because I couldn't remove the beads, paint them, and put them back on, or I could have, but then I would have had to take it apart and hot glue back together, so I decided to not do that. It was a little bit tough, but it is possible if you're careful. Then I just dressed everything up to give it more of that shabby chic look. And of course, what is more shabby chic than some delicate lace? So I wrapped that around the top and around our whisk before hot gluing it into place. These are all smaller DIYs, so I think they are perfect for a tiered tray. And it seems like my puppy had the same idea because when I was staging, he just had to steal some of my ideas. Let's start off with the first DIY, which is this cute love letters sack. My little sack that I'm using is from the Dollar Tree. It's one of the Easter Bunny ones, but they did come out with some for Valentine's Day that have hearts on them. I just couldn't find them in my store, and they already had all of the Easter stuff out. Isn't it crazy how Dollar Tree comes out with their seasons like a month in advance? Anyways, I just turned the sack inside out so that you couldn't see the bunny face, but if you have some fabric laying around, maybe some burlap, you can always use a hot glue gun and create your own sack. Then using some HTV, I created this design that said US mail, domestic with the weight. But if you do not have a cutting machine, it's no big deal. You can use a fabric pen or paint or really just a Sharpie to write out what you want on your little love letters sack. Then I stuffed it with some filling that I picked up from Joann Fabrics. It's very inexpensive and you can get a giant bag of it, but you can always use some plastic bags, maybe from the Dollar Tree, that you have laying around to fill up your sack. Then I took some of this red and white twine from the Dollar Tree to tie up my bag. And sorry, the camera goes out of focus a little bit, but I promise it gets better throughout the rest of the video. And I just wrote out love letters on a little piece of white cardstock, and then I hole punched it and tied it at the top. Our next DIY under $5 is a love letters envelope. If you haven't caught on already, not only are these DIYs coming in under $5, but they're also really quick and easy ones, so they're perfect to do right before Valentine's Day. I promise you still have time to make some DIYs. So to start off this one, I am creating our love letters by just cutting out a bunch of white cardstock. And then I am taking some paint. I did a pink color, 3 I left white, and 3 I painted a darker red. Then to kind of make them look a little bit more like envelopes, I just took a black pen and created that V down the front center of it. And to dirty them up and make it look like our love letters have really gone through a lot to get to their person, I just took a bit of brown paint and dirtied it up just a little bit. After I am done distressing our envelopes, I am going to move on to adding a centerpiece into each of the envelopes, and it's from a pretty unlikely item that I found at the Dollar Tree. I picked up these really cute heart toothpicks that I plan to use as coffee stirrers, but they were actually great in quite a lot of my Valentine's Day DIYs. I just popped the heart off of the toothpick, and then I took some hot glue to adhere it to the center of our envelopes. I also figured out about halfway through that I didn't have to rip and then cut the hearts off. If you gently tugged it kind of back and forth, the heart actually popped very cleanly off of the toothpick. Next, I am picking up this really cute galvanized envelope. I had no idea what I was going to use with it, but I thought it was too cute to pass up on, so I actually picked up two, and I am taking some hot glue and just scattering the smaller envelopes inside the larger envelope all over so it kind of looks like they are all just tucked inside. I did like the plain red ribbon, but to kind of tie in with the red and white theme from our love letter sack in the previous DIY, I decided to go with this red and white gingham bow. The next DIY uses one of my favorite supplies that the Dollar Tree comes out with every Valentine's Day, and that is the wooden heart. I'm starting off by taking an item the Dollar Tree tends to have year-round, and that are the Happily Ever After frames. I popped out the actual backing of the frame because we're only going to be using the frame. Then, as I said before, this is one of my favorite items because it's so versatile and I can use it in so many different DIYs. I love the wood hearts that the Crafter Square section comes out with for Valentine's Day. I painted it a dark red color and then added some white vinyl that said Cuddles $1. I wanted the heart to be suspended inside the frame, so I took some jute and hot glue and just hot glued it onto the different sides of the heart because I did want the heart to be hanging at an angle, kind of looking like a swing inside of the frame. If you don't have jute or maybe wanted this to look a bit more shabby chic than rustic, I think some pretty lace or some white ribbon would have also looked really good hanging the heart inside of the frame. DIY is actually intended as a children's craft, but I changed it up to fit a tiered tray. The Dollar Tree will often put out some children craft kits for different holiday seasons, and I saw this one and just loved the truck shape of it, so I decided to pick it up. I'm just going to be using the wood shape. I did save some of the rhinestones, ribbon, and other little sequins that were included in the pack. Who knows, maybe I'll use it for a future DIY. But what I'm doing to make it fit my tiered tray is kind of using the same color palette that I have used in my previous DIYs. So I'm taking that same red color and painting our truck, and then I added a bit more definition, adding in the black wheels, the bumper, and kind of distressing it a little bit on the sides to give it some definition. I wanted to create a banner so that the truck said "Love You." So I took some scrapbooking paper and a black marker to write out "You" on the little banner that I have cut out, and then added some jute and hot glue to place that. For the hearts on the truck, I took these clothespins, I love these, and ripped off the hearts from the actual clothespins, and then I hot glued these down on top of the already heart shapes on the wood truck to kind of add a 3D effect. I also took some gingham ribbon that I have used in one of my previous DIYs in this video and added that at an angle to the truck as well. Everything in this video so far has kind of had the love letters theme. We had the mail bag, then we had the larger envelope, and I kind of thought of this as the truck that is carrying all of the love letters and all of the mail. So I added a toothpick and a little piece of white cardstock that I wrote "Special Delivery" on as the final touch to this love mail truck. The last DIY is a super easy love garland that ties together all of the items on our tiered tray. This one is so easy, it almost feels silly explaining it to you all because it is really easy. I am taking some of these love ornaments that I saw at the Dollar Tree, and they were already painted red and pink, and then the natural wood ones I am painting white. And I really like adding different layers to my tiered trays, so I wanted something kind of hanging or dangling down off it like a garland. So I grabbed some jute because I used jute in the previous DIYs, and I'm kind of keeping this tiered tray rustic. It was really easy. I just strung up the love hearts, and then I tied it around my tiered tray to complete the look. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, keep searching, keep creating.